Hello and good evening, interwebs. This is SkepTalk here on the line. I'm your co-host, Aaron, and with me tonight, a new face here on the line. This is one of the top figures right now in scientific skepticism and activism, Susan Gerbrick. Susan, welcome.
I'm super excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Very glad to have you here, and thank you for reaching out and making the connection in the first place.
Well, I had to after you called me out, gave me a shout out. I mean, I was like, okay, I got to check this out. I saw Rob Palmer do this a few months ago, and he did a terrific job, and he seemed to have a really good time. So I said, I'll do it.
All right. Our reputation precedes us, and fortunately positively. So all you guys in the comments with all the bad news, don't tell her yet. Don't tell her just yet. All right. So this is, like I say, SkepTalk. Our focus tonight is on the subjects that go under skepticism. So maybe you think we've been visited by beings from another world, interdimensional, interplanetary, intergalactic. Or you think that person down the road who can read your palms can also read your mind. Maybe you think astrology is real. Maybe you think Bigfoot exists. Maybe you think Bigfoot is a psychic alien. If you think that, we want to hear from you. Talk to us. Why do you believe that? Can you convince us? Do you have evidence for that? We want to hear it. Can you convince the skeptics that you got the goods? We've been patient about these sorts of things. If you got it tonight, let's hear about it. Now, SkepTalk is, of course, just one of several shows here on the line. So if you're hanging around here tomorrow night, we got Chewed Gum with Alyssa and Erica. On Wednesday, apologies. On Wednesday, we got The Hang Up with Matt. Thursday, that's when we have the Transatlantic Call-In show. We got Josie and Ben for that. And on the appropriately named Sunday show on Sunday, we got Matt and Seth. And then on the other Sunday show, After Dark, we got Forrest and John. And of course, SkepTalk will be returning again on Monday on our usual scheduled times. So if any of those things interest you, definitely keep tuning in. But tonight, we're going to get, I guess, talking about some weird stuff, because Susan in particular, you've had quite a few adventures in those areas. Tell the audience who might not know about what fun you've been having all these years.
I have been very involved in the world of psychic mediums. I find that fascinating, more so, not so much, what tricks are they using? Because, of course, we got that down. But why is it the community? Why is it they still believe? What is going on with these people who are being preyed upon? P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y. And they're almost all women. Why is the world of psychic mediumship, why is it almost all women that are the victims of this? What is actually going on? I think it's fascinating, and I kind of fell into the world of the UFOs because of some Wikipedia edits I made, and I'm quite not appreciated by the UFO community, and that community is fascinating. I'm also very involved in the facilitated communication world and trying to fight back against that nonsense that is absolutely abusing these poor people. So I've been pretty busy. I do a lot of psychic stings. Well, maybe not a lot, because they take a lot of time to pull one off. You got to watch one, Aaron, the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it was quite interesting. We're not going to talk about the results of it, but we did one recently, and we're looking to do another one. So, I'm open to hearing what people have to say, but I'm going to be kind of defiant about it. So don't call me and tell me you've got a whole bunch of, I had this story of this day that once something happened to me and there was this, it's like, yeah, okay, come on now. You got audio of it, you got video of it. We know how the memory is fallible.
Yes. one of the things you mentioned, the audience may be less familiar with. So, like, UFOs, psychics, I think the audience knows about that. But you mentioned facilitated communication. That might not be one the audience knows so much about.
Right. So if you've watched the telepathy tapes, which is a huge podcast out that came out, I think, in 2024, just at the end, I believe, and that is what facilitated communication is. Facilitated communication is people who are severely, non-able to communicate in the way that the parents want them to communicate, which is, like everybody, I guess. And what happens is they have these letter boards, or they have keyboards, and somebody's holding their hand, or they're holding the letter board in the air, and then the person's finger is out like this, and they're moving the letter board around to meet the finger. And in the telepathy tapes, it's a podcast, so you don't know what's really going on until you watch those videos. But my very good friend Janice Boyton and other really good friends of mine are really combating that and trying to explain what's been really going on. And these people are not able to communicate. I mean, they're communicating, but they're not communicating as typical, having a conversation back and forth with people. So these are parents that are in very desperate situations. This is very time consuming and very stressful to raise a child that is unable to dress themselves, unable to feed themselves, and so on. I mean, it's very stressful and it's very expensive. So when somebody comes along with a breakthrough, oh my gosh, all I have to do is put this letter board in front of them and hold their hand, or move the letter board in front of their finger. Now all of a sudden they're speaking. But a lot of these students, these children, aren't even looking at the keyboard. They're typing, or they're pointing to it, and they're looking off to the side. And now what they're saying is that the parent, who's usually the one being the facilitator, is using telepathy. See, so they don't have to look at the keyboard because they're seeing it in their mind's eye or something. I don't know.
It's so clear that this is ripe for abuse. Even if a person is being well-meaning trying to do the communicating, it's so easy to just find what you want to see. But especially if you throw in bad actors into there, you're talking about abuse of families, almost certainly.
Right, absolutely. And there's been several cases of sexual violence on these people. If you watch the movie, there was a Netflix movie called Tell Them You Love Me. And that was facilitated communication, where the professor of ethics, after all, had a client who was severely disabled and unable to communicate in that way. She, in her mind, had a fantasy that he was communicating with her and telling her he loved her. And then she, well, I don't know if we can say the word, but, she used that R word, saying it was a sexually that he agreed to it because he typed it. But no, he didn't. And this happens often because the parents are accused of harming their child, or the parents divorce, and one parent will accuse the other parent of it, and they'll use the writings of their child to say that they're doing it because that's what it said. So there's been court cases, parents locked up, children removed from homes. It's quite abusive.
This is when skepticism is so necessary now more than ever in so many ways, it feels like. So I am very glad that there are people like you, Susan, that do this actively. Like, so often I feel like my skepticism is I see something on the internet and I'm angry about it, but doing something about it is something I do wish I was doing more, something like what you're doing. In fact, you actually have, I think, a group of people who work with you to actually spread the good news.
Right. So I run a Wikipedia project, and that's probably what you're talking about?
Yes.
So we have, I have a little over 100 people that I've trained. We're all in a Facebook group called the Secret Cabal. And what we do is I train people to become Wikipedia editors. And not only to become Wikipedia editors, just making small changes, but we do some massive writing of Wikipedia articles. And we focus on anything that has to do with science, scientific skepticism, claims of the paranormal, and people of science. We've written 2,300 Wikipedia articles. 45% of the work we do is in languages outside of English. And we're about to hit 200 million page views for those articles. We've hit all kinds of things. This is one of the reasons why the UFO community is so upset at me, is because I have written myself, I think, 7 Wikipedia pages concerning UFOs. And the rules of Wikipedia are very strong. They're the rules of skepticism. You know, you have to have a source for what you're saying, and that source needs to be very good. And so people don't like that. They think it should be just like a website. So we've written a lot about vaccines, the people who are the opponents of vaccines, and also the people who are people of science, who support vaccines. And we've written tons of different things. And if you have read one of the New York Times had an article out called The Disinformation Dozen, who were the 12 people who were disseminating the most nonsense about vaccines. I think we've written probably 6 of those 12 Wikipedia articles. So the information's out there. People are able to get the good information. And it is imperative, I think, that Wikipedia is the first place you go to when it comes to activism. If you don't have that Wikipedia article in great shape, it needs to be in great shape. And so that people can go and get better information. Follow the citations. Don't, necessarily quote the article unless you've checked it out. But heck yeah, science communication at its best is on Wikipedia.
Are you looking for more volunteers, or do you feel like there's enough of a cadre in your secret cabal to keep this going?
Oh, I need lots and lots of people. Oh my gosh. I just came back from a German skeptics conference in Regensburg just a few weeks ago, and I'm begging people there, please, we need German editors. We need everything. I will take anybody who wants to learn, but let me tell you, it's at least 4 months of training just to finish my training, and then we're expecting you to work. So you would approach me on Facebook. Messenger, I want your Wikipedia editing name, and I'm going to check you out because I got to make sure that we're not letting anybody into the group who's trying to sabotage us or something. I don't really know what they would do, but I want people who are serious about wanting to make good science communication.
All right, so call out to the audience. We want and need volunteers to keep this sort of going. And apparently, if your German is good, you're in demand.
Any language. I'll take even just plain old boring English speakers.
Well, my English is extremely boring, so I can handle that.
I get the question. We should make it clear. I think in the chat they're probably talking about that they have tried to make edits to a Wikipedia article and it didn't stick, and they think that somebody's deleting them for reasons that are personal. I can assure you it probably has nothing to do with you personally, but you're probably making the edit incorrectly. And if people want to reach out to me on Facebook Messenger or on email, susangerbic@yahoo.com or gmail.com, I'm happy to look at what it is that you tried to do, and I'll see if I can give you a good answer of what went wrong and how you could do it better. But most people are not really privy to the actual rules of Wikipedia, which are quite strict. And, anybody can edit Wikipedia, but it doesn't mean that edit's going to stick on Wikipedia. So we want people to do it correctly. So even if you don't want to join my team, reach out to me if you have any questions about Wikipedia. I'll be happy to take a look at it.
Awesome. All right, so this is a reminder also to the audience, not only to get in contact with Susan about possibly doing this, but also to the rest of the audience who might feel like they just want to call in. We got the phone number down below, 1-720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. Call in, and do you think you have evidence that we're being visited by little green men, or big green men, or robots, or robot green men? Green robot men? I'm trying to think of all the combinations of these words that are possible. Psychic alien Elvis impersonator. That's what we want you to call in and tell us when you got the evidence for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting.
All right. Now, we do have a couple of callers lined up, and we're going to try to prioritize those who are wanting to talk about the big topics there. So I'm looking at our list right now. So I'm going to bring in Jessie from Pennsylvania, pronounced she, her. She's an atheist, but she says she does believe in aliens. So let's bring in Jessie. Jessie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
How you doing this evening?
Can you hear me? I'm well. How are you guys?
You're
All
my
good here.
first caller in. This is exciting.
Thank you. So, mainly the reason I believe in aliens is because the shows like Sightings and Unsolved Mysteries that were out in the 90s.
hmm
So I'm autistic, and those shows kind of indoctrinated me, and I've slowly been trying to undoctrinate myself from those. So that was kind of hard.
Well, television makes it difficult in general to get to what's real. And you mentioned Unsolved Mysteries, and my understanding is the show is kind of a mix of true crime and stories that can fill a 15-minute window, even if the facts aren't quite there. That's at least my understanding. That it was mostly a mixed bag.
So they would have here's a story about a missing child or someone that was murdered, and then here's a story about Bigfoot or aliens or whatever have you. So that's kind of where I got my start with that, and shows like that didn't help. Now, as far as my belief, I don't see why not. That in the grand scheme of the universe, why not? Are they visiting us? Probably not. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the feeling if they wanted to visit us, they would first have to say, all right, so for this vacation, we got to hop in the metal tube, and your great grandchildren might get a chance to see the world that we're traveling to.
And at that point, from my understanding, it would pretty much be like robots or something. No organics can survive that kind of travel, from what I've understood. You know what I mean?
It's hard to know.
Just from other skeptics. I'm sorry.
I would say, I'm not sure to what extent like either microbes or even bigger objects could survive in some sort of environment. My thought is, who wants to make that trip that would take tens of thousands of years? Here's how to put things in perspective of just how stupidly big the universe is. Let's just say humanity decided, okay, we want to send someone to the nearest star system, Alpha Centauri, which is roughly 4 light years away. If we took the fastest thing that we've ever launched into space and actually launched it in the direction of Alpha Centauri, it would take on the order of something like 70,000 years to get there. Which is on par with that's like 10 times the length of all of human history. And that's a one-way ticket. That's not even like with the opportunity to come home and tell us about, the souvenirs you picked up. And that's the closest star.
Is there no way to have to open up the kind of like, so I'm talking in theoretical. I don't know much about like physics and stuff like that, but isn't it possible to fold space and stuff like that? Like not presently, but isn't that that's a theory I've heard from like me. I don't want to say his name wrong. Miko Akashi or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the name is escaping, but yeah, he's a Japanese American physicist.
Yeah. But isn't that kind of stuff like theoretically possible?
He's got a name that's like keto. People are shouting it probably at us right now.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about. So you've got one physicist or like 10 physicists that believes it's possible, and you've got thousands of physicists that are going,
Unfortunately, one of those physicists is on the call tonight. There are issues with those ideas. Michio Kaku. There we go. Thank you for finally making my brain work tonight. See, I should have had 2 cups of coffee, not just 1.
Somebody said it in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. So to get those sorts of ideas to work, so in particular, the 2 things that they'll do with the space-time metrics from our friend Einstein is you either create something called a wormhole, or you have this other way of bending space-time in what's called the Alcubierre metric. It was invented by a Mexican physicist, Michaela Alcubierre, and I'm probably pronouncing the name poorly because my Spanish is non-existent. But what he did is basically, hey, if you bend space-time in this way, then it can make it so that you could have some sort of vessel go absurdly fast as desired without actually needing to use gigantic amounts of rocket propellant, things like that. And his mathematics are totally valid. Nobody has looked at that and said, oh no, you missed a minus sign or things like that. The problem is that it breaks a whole bunch of other conditions that we otherwise have established for dealing with this. In particular, it requires something called exotic matter or negative mass. Now, negative mass sounds a little bit weird, and I need to show you how weird it is. If you take a ball and you push it forward, what direction does it accelerate?
If you push it forward, it would go forward, right?
Exactly. A negative mass, if you just plug that into the famous F equals ma Newton's second law equation, that would suggest the mass would accelerate in the opposite direction you pushed it. You push the ball left, it accelerates to the right.
Okay.
That's just one thing that should make you scratch your head and say, I don't think so. That's already weird. At the very least, we don't have any theoretically... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it basically operates outside the laws of physics.
So far as we can establish... At the very least of this, if it did exist, it would have a whole bunch of really weird consequences, including things that might be self-destructive. It could allow you to build like infinite energy machines. And pretty much anytime the universe says, hey, free stuff, you have to say, yeah, I did the math wrong.
Can I go back to a second about the
required for both metrics?
Can I go back a second to the TV shows that I mentioned? So, like I said, I'm trying to undoctrinate myself from all of that, right? The thing with those is the shows is they'll like, here's the story from this person in the military, or here's this like person that was a police officer, and they or this whole group of like 50, 100 people saw this thing. I don't know how to account for that. I don't know how to explain that in my head, like trying to get out of this.
Can I take that?
Please.
So Jesse, kudos to you. You realize that this is an issue, and you realize that you're trying to get yourself out of it. And I mean, think about the money that's going into these TV shows and how much money they're trying to manipulate you and everybody else out there with their music cues, with their quick edits that they're making. They have an agenda, and their agenda is to keep your eyeballs watching that through the commercials and buying their products and on and on and on. So everybody there on that TV set that's working for that program can keep their income coming in. So I would suggest to you to try, this might help. Try to watch programs that are showing you how these things are made. So if you are in a place where you could go and watch, like, this is going to sound silly, but like The Price is Right or something in LA, if you can sit in the audience and see what's happening with the cameras and, everything that's happening off the TV screen, it might help you a lot to see how manipulated these shows are and how they're only just trying to manipulate you. And so I think that you're almost there. I mean, you've already got it, but you're just, I think you just need a little shove, a little bit more like that ball. And so you can get to a point where you can see the bigger picture of, oh, wait a minute. Come on, man.
Yeah. Cause it's just really hard. Like I said, I'm autistic, right? So when you start, and I was a child when those shows were on, right? Like I'm 42. So we're talking, I was born in '83, so we're talking like 7, 8, 9-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I have thanks to watching like Penn and Teller's BS. And knowing about James Randi and the stuff he did, to get me out of at least the psychic stuff.
Right.
So,
well, you sound like you're doing really well, actually. I think you're doing really well, and I think you just need a little bit more. And remember that argument from authority thing there with the military and the police. They're just trying to tell a good story, and also memories are fallible. I mean, even if the military person or the police officer is saying this story, it doesn't mean that's exactly how it happened. I mean, if this was real, we would be living in a completely different world than we're living in right now. Correct, Aaron?
Oh, yeah. Especially if the number of reports were accurate of how many times they say that's a UFO was really a UFO, our airplanes should be crashing into them all the time just by how plentiful they'd have to be to make that work.
Well, true enough. And thank you for taking my call. I just thought it would be fun to call in and share my experience with how
thank you for mentioning Randy.
Indoctrination works, at least. But yep, all right.
I love Randy, James Randi. There he is, right there behind me.
Yeah.
There he is. There.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's
all right.
I'm in an alternative universe here with you move one way and things move the other way. What is that physics thing you were just talking about there, Aaron? If I move this way, never mind. Randy's behind me somewhere.
Well, okay. Well, all right. I hope you all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Have a great night. Bye. I'm actually trying to look at your shelf. I don't see Randy, but I do see Matt Schreck.
Matt Schreck? Who's Matt Schreck? Where do you see that?
The person who played Count Orlok from Nosferatu. I can see that on the shelf back there. Oh, that's
Nosferatu. Yeah. In 2013, I had cancer, and I had chemo, and my hair was all gone and everything. And so my boyfriend, Mark Edward, who's on the shelf over there somewhere, back here, I don't know. I can't point to the right thing. So I dressed up as Nosferatu for Halloween, and I dressed up as Uncle Fester and Cleopatra and everything I could possibly do. I was a phrenology dummy. I really enjoyed being bald for that period of time, and I took full advantage of it. So I'd never heard of Nosferatu before, but that's not me in that picture. But there are a lot of pictures of me out there as Nosferatu. So I put that out as one of my favorite pictures of nice memory of. Well, I don't have a nice memory of having cancer, but when life gives you lemons, make Nosferatu photos.
Well, first off, I'm glad that the therapy was successful for you. I'm actually just now listening to the book, The King of All Maladies, The History of Cancer and Cancer Research.
Oh, I think I have that. Over here, and I think I had read it for a while. And the problem with it is that I kept wanting to stop and look everything up. I'd go, "What? That sounds very interesting." So I wasn't getting through the book very fast. What's the name of the author? Is it really a hard,
quite remember. It's
unpronounceable name?
It's an Indian name, so it's not easy for me to remember, let alone correctly pronounce. The name of the book is Emperor of All Maladies. That's what it is.
Yeah. I have it. I've tried reading it. I will try some other day again. It was really fascinating, the stories. We've only had cancer research, for just 50 years or something. It's just incredible how far we've come. Again, if we had space aliens or psychic healing or Reiki or something like that works, then why are we going to so much trouble to fight cancer and put chemotherapy in people and radiation? And heck, bring on the med beds. Where are our med beds? I was promised a med bed.
I've told other folks here that, hey, it's like we got I'm in the Boston area, so we have the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, effectively down the road from me. And it's like, why aren't they just full of psychic healers and treating all these children? Instead, we got kids coming in to St. Jude's for some attempt at success, and we're nowhere near batting 1,000 when it comes to this sort of stuff. And it seems like, hey, if you can come in, wave your hands over, and cure people, and you're not doing that, either you're a fraud or you're a criminal for holding back such life-giving abilities.
Right. the thing is these people actually believe that they're doing it. I just went to a psychic fair yesterday, and they had people lined up to do the Reiki. And it's the placebo. You're laying there, you've paid some money, $30 or whatever to somebody. You're laying there nice and quiet. You have maybe headaches or a backache or something that's not like, it's going to come and go as far as the pain. And of course you feel better. You've got somebody fussing over you. It's just like, yeah, it's performative. You're going to feel better when you leave, but is it curing anything? Well, if it did, we wouldn't have hospitals like we have. The world would be a different place. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot tonight.
Oh yeah. And also just because it's stuck in my head, because I keep seeing the picture every time. So yeah, the Nosferatu character, the actor who played that was named Max Schreck. And here's the movie trivia for the night. If you've seen Batman Returns, the character played by Christopher Walken, the character name was Max Schreck because Tim Burton is a fan of horror films, so he definitely knew about Max Schreck playing the original vampire. So a little bit of movie trivia to connect several important films together.
Very important, very important.
All right. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Edward Scissorhands is calling in, but we do have the lines open. So if you got something paranormal you want to talk about, please call in. The lines are open. We got plenty of slots, but we do have another caller waiting in the wings. Susan, if you're ready for it.
Yeah, let's bring that person on.
All right. So bringing in Dave from California, pronouns he, him. This is another atheist, but wants to talk about how will we cope with a war when the VA is being gutted. So this is a little bit political, but Dave, let's see where you want to go with this.
I feel like I was sitting, like you said, in the wings, thinking on, how can I relate this to the topic? And honestly, like moments before the last caller was finishing up, it dawned on me. Let's talk about deja vu.
All right.
The deja vu that I am experiencing currently is about 20 years ago. I watched this nation get lied to about the threat of weapons of mass destruction in order to engage us into a war where we sold our own blood for oil. And part of my blood was what was sold, and part of the blood of many of my fallen brothers. And I watched the exact same steps occurring over the last few days, and I've had very, very sleepless nights because I knew the moment it started. I knew the steps that were going to happen almost as though I were psychic. I am not. This was not premonition, but experience. This was history repeating itself almost identically. And but I do have a portent for anybody who is listening. I've been on the battlefield. I spent 3 tours in Iraq, 12 years in the U.S. Army. And I am currently 100% disabled. 70% of that is PTSD, so I'm a little off my rocker. And my prediction is that when we create this new generation of veterans by putting boots on the ground in Iraq, is that with all of the guts, the VA that I have been trying to fight as an advocate, a life member of the VFW, and warrior for veterans benefits and veterans rights, veterans care. I've been watching the administration systematically gut the VA and veterans benefits over the past 6 months. Since the moment he took office, they started attacking the support system that is already in place and would be in place for any of the returning young men and women who are about to go bleed for this country. So that is my prediction, that when they return from whatever happens in the future, we're not going to be here to catch them when they come back. and they take the uniform off. That is my prediction, sir.
It's an unpleasant prediction, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what I would say. My father was in World War II. He died in a VNA. I mean, not VNA. In Palo Alto, he died at a veterans hospital up in Palo Alto from cancer, and it was the treatment he got back then in 1989 was horrible. He was treated very badly, and I can't even imagine what it must be like to go through these kinds of things even now. I'm very sorry for what's happened to you and what's happening to our other veterans. I don't know what I can help. I have to stay in my lane. That's how I keep myself. It's just I'm focusing on the things I have the ability to change, and that's all I can do.
I wasn't necessarily planning to do this, but if I may, if you want to find a way to help me and support me and my cause in particular, I have written a book, or I'm almost done finishing it up. But I have started a GoFundMe for a publication cost because I want to self-publish. I don't want anybody else on my SBN. I don't want anybody else. It's my book. It's my voice. And I do have a GoFundMe link that I could share if I am allowed, or I could just say, where to find my profile and do it that way. But that is one way to support. And one of the goals that I do have is if I double my initial goal for a publication, I'm going to set aside a fund for another veteran to tell their story. So this is a project that I believe in. The book is called The Things They Buried, in homage to Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. I wrote in a similar style to his, with telling my own story through the lens of a fictional character loosely based on myself, through a nonlinear series of short stories. And this is my dream is to get veterans' voices out there, not just my own.
Well, I want to make sure that we don't have some policy that I'm not familiar with. Amargan, I'm not against him putting something in the chat for his GoFundMe, but I don't know if we have a channel policy.
We
generally don't allow people to plug their stuff, and we don't allow people can't put links in the descriptions in chat. However,
Roger, I figured I'd have to send it to somebody at best.
Yeah, but I think you've plugged it fairly well. I mean, I think you've given enough information for people to find it.
What was the name of the book again?
Things
They Buried?
The Things They Buried is the name of the book, and my name is, I'll go ahead and dox myself, David Spaeth, Spaeth. You can look me up there, and I already know that Googling my name will and GoFundMe will get you to the right place. So.
Yeah, that's
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
I hope this goes well for you. I really do. And I hope we can get more stories out there.
I hope this goes well for a lot of people.
Yeah, let's hope.
And if I may say, Dave,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Dave, so I want to say, first off, thank you for your service. I have plenty of family, former military, including my wife is an Army veteran as well, and uses the VA for things. And boy, oh boy, I am glad that she has that resource. And yeah, the things that are making it worse, when if anything, we need to make sure that it's at least as good as it is now. Yeah, that's something we should be advocating for. That's I think a political policy we should be on.
Excuse me, hey Dave.
They just passed. Sorry.
Yeah, if you do you have access to chat?
I do have access to the chat, the live chat. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and put the link in there, and our lead mod will plug it.
That's very nice.
Excellent. Oh, whoops! That is the wrong link. I almost grabbed a YouTube link. Grab the right one.
Too late now.
We don't want to find out what you do at night.
Yeah. All right.
I am grabbing the correct one now. I appreciate you guys for allowing even this much. It is incredible. Just even time to speak. I do want to add, Aaron, specifically since you mentioned your wife being a veteran and the VA and whatnot. One of the things that just got passed rather quietly is they just passed a thing that says that VA hospitals can turn away Democrats and unmarried veterans from care.
Let's just hope this is all temporary.
Yeah. By the way, Susan, just so you know, we are allowed to swear in this show, so I'm going to have to use some choice words. Those motherfuckers. If they think that's going to do that, they need to be on the front lines in dealing with this. Because no, they don't get to decide who does or doesn't get treatment by political means. If that's the case, Senator, you get to go on the front lines and get shot at before you even try that again. I'm sorry. I am violently angry with that even being part of the process of deciding which veterans get help.
Yeah, I'd like to see how that. I'd like to see that.
Out.
I'd like to be. I'd like to see this. What you're talking about.
I don't have a link in front of me, but I can. Give me 1 sec.
Tell me what I'm looking for. VNA.
No, VA hospitals rejecting Democrats and unmarried.
Okay, I'm putting it on my list of things to look at after the show's over, but thank you.
Oh yeah, you're the Wikipedia one, right? You're doing all these but yeah, this just came through 8 days ago. It was reported by The Guardian. The VA secretary is saying that they're just rumors, but
yeah,
so no, it has.
I'm seeing here.
To clarify, it's not.
I'm seeing, yeah, for example, on CBS,
but it has been reported. Yeah, CBS also reported it.
Yeah, I'm seeing CBS saying that this is a rumor and is supposed to be refuted, but since this is the same administration that will say we sent this person to El Salvador by accident, but he totally deserved it because he's a drug lord. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, the last time VA Secretary Doug Collins refuted something, it was the claim that they had made cuts to the suicide crisis line, which they did do. So he's like, no, there are no cuts and cuts. So this is how much I trust him refuting this claim.
I mean, isn't there law, like federal law, that would keep discriminating like that? How would you even know? I mean, with this administration, everything is just, he's riling us all up with all the speculation and rumor. I don't think most of what he comes out of vomits out of his mouth are even possible to happen, but it's just trying to get us distracted and trying to keep us away from our goals, keep us unfocused.
That is something that even Bannon said was the shotgun approach. Just keep blasting out bullshit. They can only handle so much of it at once. This is exactly what this is a part of.
Right.
So it could just be a rumor, but it is still part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This information.
But nonetheless, we have to focus on what we can control. And also it is worth noting, if they do try to push something like that, representatives do tend to listen to their constituents if they are loud and organized enough. There has already been backtracking on so many things because of public outcry. So even if somebody is talking about this, if there's enough noise, it should not go that far. So
right.
Obviously no guarantees, but we still have a democracy. We still have
it. There was a veterans protest in Washington, D.C. The day before B-2s were sent, and many veterans were arrested on the steps of the Capitol for just peaceful protesting. It never erupted into any violence. They just got grabbed. So it's Vietnam all over again, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. All I can say is for those who are fighting over there, some of us are still fighting back here to make sure you have a home to come back to.
Well, thank you, Dave.
And that's
I
my
appreciate
last.
your call.
All right. You all have
We
a
hope
good
success in
day.
your-
Thank you for giving me a moment.
Yes, and we hope you have success in being able to tell your story.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Peace out.
Well, I'm depressed.
Well,
Maybe we have somebody who's got a little more happy thoughts coming up.
we might have that. We might have that. But it is also worth noting that not only do we need to, I guess, deal with issues with the VA, but let's also remember, happily, no, quite the opposite of happily, the biggest anti-vax person in the world is running our health. So that's something else
I can't
we need to
even
be
imagine.
pushing at. Yeah.
I feel like I'm living in
It's-
opposite world.
Yeah. I saw it just, I think it was either yesterday or today that you had a post about how successful has the skeptical movement been. I think in response to something Steve Novella had. And
Yeah.
I think a fair assessment is a mixed bag. And unfortunately, when it comes to medicine, it seems like we're as close to the worst possible world on that as I could imagine right now.
Well, it depends. I mean, like I had, I've had to deal with doctors, and my partner just recently died, and he had cancer, and he got the best and most amazing care in the world. You think about how bad it can be. It can also be amazing. He had a much longer life, prolonged, and he had a great quality of life. And I think that we're living in amazing times. It's a time, I don't say this lightly, but a time of miracles. I just can't even imagine. It's incredible. And I think that, but then again, I tend to be an optimist. And sadly, everybody has to throw shade on the optimist, but I am
I'm
very
actually
optimistic.
I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that is a very good reminder that whatever political problems we're having, medicine has gone and advanced so much in the last 1,500 years that, I mean, one of the books I need to read, it's called Bad Medicine. It's the history of medicine and surgery. And it was like, basically until the 19th century, you were probably safer not going to the doctor than going to a doctor.
That written by
and it really
Offit?
only became scientific. It might be. I forget if it was him or no. Daniel Wooten is another historian of science.
Mm-hmm. I have a shelf of books over there that's all medicine and health and stuff like that related, and I'm trying to see it and I can't see it, but I think it's Paul Offit wrote Bad Medicine.
Oh yeah,
I haven't read it, but I have the book. It's sitting there.
Yeah. But my understanding is that in many ways that medicine only started getting like really properly scientific 19th and more of the 20th century. It's only then that they started having things like randomized controlled trials. So for the longest time, a lot of medicine was doctor vibes. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad we're better than that. So thank you for putting that perspective in. That you're right. We are in way better times medically today than we were 10, let alone 50, let alone 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So we do have progress. So that means we should progress into our next caller. I am terrible at transitions, but let's bring in Ben from Alabama, pronouns he, him, wants to talk about experience with perpetual motion machines. Ben, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was curious. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm curious what experience you have with perpetual motion or magical space drives. Like, I work on solar sails, which are technically propellantless, but they do in fact work. And a couple of times I've had people contact me with their ideas for a magic space thruster. And I'm just curious what you guys have had any experience with in that area.
Well, if it was possible, we would have already had it. There's been a lot of money grifted into that world. My gosh, the patent office, I think, is refusing to take patents for anything remotely connected to perpetual motion machines that's been debunked so many times. It sounds good, but I mean, I guess we should let the physicists deal with this. But yeah, it's a money pit.
If I can
Yeah,
go
but
for
I
clarity, you
hear
mentioned
you
that you've
provide.
done solar sales.
Yeah, I work on solar sales as my day job.
Oh,
And yeah,
in what capacity?
uh, mainly steering, but I've also worked on like doing trajectories and stuff. But yeah, I had a discussion with Stephanie about how to sail a solar sail closer to the sun,
Hmm.
technically going upwind.
Hmm.
But it's interesting because like I had a guy send me a paper once. It was all in Spanish, so I had a friend of mine translate it a bit for me. But what he had was he had like this donut that had an ion engine on one side, and it would shoot the propellant out to create thrust, and it would go around the donut, be adjusted by the ion engine, which that's not how ion engines work. But and then he thought by having two of these donuts with the thrusters on opposite sides, he could get thrust without losing any propellant. And I was like, yeah, but it's hitting the walls. There's nothing. It's all canceling out.
It
So that
reminds
was
me at
one of the
least a
more
little bit
simple
like
ones
some
I've
of
done.
the designs I've seen for like interstellar ships where it has like this giant cone up front to try to collect hydrogen and then push it into a fusion reactor to then use the energy to spit out the end, which sounds like a great way to propel you, and you would definitely get a whole lot of oomph from that. But eventually, you have the issue that the ship is going through fast. That when it's actually hitting the hydrogen, well, it's basically like hitting a whole bunch of little projectiles, which is going to push you back because of momentum transfer. So you actually spend some of your momentum just pushing that gas forward to go into your fusion drive. It sounds a little reminiscent of what this design is kind of do, and it's forgetting, oh yeah, there's that momentum transfer in that process, which every time is the reason perpetual motion doesn't work.
Yeah, and I know like on occasion, like I think here recently, somebody had some magic space drive that they actually got a little bit of NASA money to test. And I was like, really? I think my first question with them does it generate more thrust than a flashlight would? Say, because like 100% efficient flashlight would generate thrust like a rocket. And every single one of these machines, I mean, energy goes in, photons go out. Yes, it will generate thrust, but you ain't getting more watts out than you put in.
Yes.
And the Bussard Ram scoop is, I guess their idea is that by subjecting the particles they collect to nuclear fusion, they're getting more energy out than they're losing by running into them. But that's not even a form of fusion that works. I don't know how the heck they build a scoop. It's so far beyond.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of
solar
technical
sail.
problems. I think, yeah.
Solar
I think
sails
the
are a lot
scoops are
more
like
realistic.
kilometers wide.
Yeah. It's funny because like there's no new physics required to do interstellar solar sails. I think we like to say it's mainly an engineering problem, probably the most difficult engineering problem ever, but we don't have to learn anything new about nature to do it.
Mm.
You just need really big sails, really big lasers, and really, really, really good navigation, which seems to be the part people are always forgetting.
Oh yeah, because I can imagine it's like, oh, you're off by 1 degree. Maybe from here to the moon, that's not too terrible. But when you're traveling light years, it's like, okay, yeah, you're now just in interstellar space. Congratulations, you will see nothing forever.
Yeah. Like, oh, oops, we missed them by a light year.
Oops.
There was this other like space thruster idea I heard that was honestly so full of jargon I couldn't understand it. But I was wondering like how's it compared to a flashlight? And
Mm.
the premise was there's all this quantum fluctuation, and he had this device that through these little tiny helical holes of the right size and doing something to this grid of holes called grand Faraday rotation, which those are words. I've heard those words. I don't know what they mean together. That it somehow filters out everything but gamma rays of a specific polarization. So this by firing this thing up, you get gamma rays going out one side and acting like rocket thrust pushing you the other way. And I was like, this looks like a really expensive gamma ray flashlight. I was wondering if grand Faraday rotation is something you've ever heard of.
I have not heard those words, but I wonder if that was the explanation or one of the explanations for the so-called EM drive that was talked about 4 or 5 years ago, where they were saying, hey, we have this empty cavity and it seems to be providing this absurdly tiny thrust, like trillionths of a Newton or whatever the thrust was, some incredibly tiny amount. But it's like, hey, it's not zero. We're breaking physics. And of course, every time I'm like, it's tiny, but not quite zero, my first thought is, I don't trust your calibration. When it's that tiny, it's like, okay, the chances that your scale is just slightly off calibration seems more likely than you broke physics. I'll think that 99% of the time. I don't know where the research is gone, but last I have seen was that the results have not been greatly reproducible, but I do not know the details, let alone what explanations they gave for the EM drive, whether it was Graham, not Helmholtz, you said Graham Faraday.
I suppose grand with a D, Faraday rotation. Yeah.
Yep, those are words, but beyond that, they have no meaning to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I read this paper. I didn't understand all the jargon, but I was like, well, it looks like a gamma ray flashlight. Okay, that will in fact generate some thrust. And the Pioneer spacecraft they had such good navigation on it, and I think it was like built very symmetrical. So they had a really good idea of where they should have been in space. And it was off course. And after lots of hypothesizing, things like, hey, maybe modified Newtonian dynamics or something, what they realized was it was the infrared photons coming out as heat from the radio that pushed it off course by a very tiny amount. And yeah, that's the thing these these ideas have to deal with. It's like, I haven't seen any of them. Like the EM drive, if they're talking about such tiny amounts of thrust, that could easily just be heat somewhere.
I do want to highlight something you mentioned with the Pioneer probe, is that, hey, our physics is so good that we have to actually, to fully account for the motions of things, account for the heat on the radio to project where things are going to be decades in the future. And when we do that, we can accurately make those predictions. The astrologers can't do that. The psychics can't do that. The EM drive people can't do that. They're just like, hey, here's a weird thing. I broke science. And then science is like, hey, we have this absurd level of accuracy. Could you at least try better?
Oh yeah. I think like I point out sometimes that, Edmund Halley actually made some predictions that came true.
Yeah.
About a comet coming back, yeah.
Yeah, so I've basically exhausted what I can say about perpetual motion. Susan, any other last thoughts? Because I think we might need to find someone who wants to fight us.
I would just say that according to the chat, I was looking at, they were saying that I think the patent office needs an actual prototype that works. And James Randi apparently tried testing some perpetual motion device. I'm trying to remember about that. But I mean, if it worked, we would have it already. And what is the thing about it that they're all men? What is that? What's going on there? I still don't understand that. Why are all these people who perpetuate these perpetual motion machines are all male? Why?
I guess because they have to make themselves feel like their conviction is stronger than nature?
They're smarter than
something
everybody
to
else
prop
or
up.
something? Are you trying to say something
Yeah,
about men in
smarter
general,
than
that they all want to be smarter than everybody else and women aren't?
yeah, they're
I
trying
kind
to
of
be
wonder
smarter
about
than
that.
yeah, they're trying to be smarter than nature itself.
I mean, this has been done so many times. It's like, okay, no, just at a certain point,
Yeah.
can we just, move? I don't know why people think they're just so smart, but I don't know. Maybe it's something in the brain that the math just seems right to them or something, or it just seems possible, or well, I
Uh,
don't know. I guess
yeah.
it's like the space aliens. It's possible, I guess. I mean, Bigfoot could
Yeah.
exist, yes, but I mean, how likely is it? Okay, can we, there's my thoughts. I gave them to you all.
All right, thanks.
All right, Ben. Thank you for calling in. We're
Thank you, Ben.
let you have a good night,
Yep.
and we're
Thank
gonna see who else is in queue to chat us up. Maybe someone will have one of those finally working perpetual motion machines.
Yeah.
Ah, all right.
Who you
So
got
looking
next?
next
Come
in
on,
the
Aaron.
queue. Yeah. All right. So let's bring in Jeremiah, pronouns he, him, coming from Texas, and wants to know what we think about how we're going to actually search for those sneaky, sneaky aliens. Jeremiah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. You want
Can
to
you
talk
hear me?
about. Yes, we hear you just fine. And it sounds like you want to talk about folks out there. What do you want to talk about with them?
Well, I've always thought that things like SETI and the things that we've been doing for a while have kind of just been passive, almost back burner kind of things. And I always wondered the fact that if there were intelligent life out around anywhere near us at all in the universe, that is probably pretty far away, and that if there's any chances of them finding us, we should maybe take a more active approach, maybe with some sort of transmission or beacons that we mount to satellites or whatever that we have available. And I always get the pushback that, well, if there's aliens out there, we don't want to necessarily have them find us before we have a chance to, see if they're maybe hostile or whatever. But, I think just we should maybe do a little more in the search for them. And I've always been a proponent of possibly maybe some sort of beacons on satellites that shine out some encoded message, maybe, or kind of like what they did with the Voyager satellite. They put an invitation, so to speak, and what's the Drake equation that gave us an indication of the possibility of life. I think that's probably a little bit out of date at this point, since we've learned a lot more about. I've heard from like the abiogenesis research about the building blocks of life being able to form in space, and that the components are far more readily available than we might have thought before. And I just think we would be better off to try and attract contact as opposed to just looking for it passively. Curious what you think.
What are your thoughts, Susan?
Well, I think that SETI is, and I know Seth Soshak, and I've heard him talk many times. And from what I understand, is they are aggressively. Some people will say it's a waste of money and so on, but actually, I believe that the technology they're using is with the radio antennas and stuff, all the stuff they do. And I'm not a scientist, so I might get this a little bit wrong, but the point is that the technology they're using, the money they're spending, it's actually improving the quality of radio transmissions, the technology they're able to use. All of that is all a benefit in the long run to other areas, possibly with satellites and so on. But I think we are sending out. I mean, our stuff is already going out there. Don't we have? I Love Lucy or something that's out there far enough or something for them to find. Um, I mean, improving technology is always good. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was advocating for a penny to go to NASA from our taxes, because right now I think it's, well, I don't know about today, but when he was talking about penny for NASA, I think it was 1/10 of a penny is going to our NASA budget. I would love to see a penny for NASA. I think we could get a lot farther, drive a lot more jobs, improve the world's economy, and get better technology out there. I think that'd be wonderful. So yeah, let's throw some money at it. But again, it comes down to I'm an activist. I want to know what I can do. What can I do? What can I organize people to do? And you know, I don't know what I could do in that area. More technology, better technology, raise more engineers.
Yeah,
All right.
I agree.
And I need to calm myself down in saying a lot because I have a lot of connections to this. One, I was an intern at the SETI Institute when I was in college. So I got to actually use their telescopes to search for aliens. I wrote a book a couple years ago about aliens and religion and what are techniques for finding aliens and what's the probability that aliens exist out there. I did my own probability estimates for how many life forms are out there based on the Drake equation and our best estimates for those parameters. So bye. So I'll just very quickly say that there are actual efforts, people have done this, to send out signals directly to the aliens. There was one that was sent using the Arecibo radio telescope back in the late 70s. It was sent towards one of the large Magellanic Clouds. There was that signal. There was a more publicity stunt several years ago. I forget to which star system they sent the signal, but it was a recording of Across the Universe from the Beatles. So obviously it was marketed, more marketing than actual science. The big thing, though, is this. Let's just assume there's an alien civilization a mere 100 light years away. And when I say a mere 100 light years, our galaxy is on the order of 100,000 light years across. So something being 100 light years away is galactically close. But that also means if we sent a signal out now, it would take 100 years to get there. So if there are aliens there, and they see that signal we send, and they decide to send anything back, that's at least 200 years. That's not going to really speed up the search. And either way, we still have to listen for whatever the aliens send back if they're going to use radio technology or anything else that goes at light speed. So our passive methods are probably going to be faster than the active ones. And as for the aliens coming to get us, and we shouldn't let them know we're here, honestly, even if we completely shut off all of our cell phones, if we never made another TV program, they already know there's life on this planet because we have the technology to figure that out now. So the James Webb Space Telescope, the recent space telescope that was launched successfully a couple years ago, it's able to measure what sorts of gases are in the atmospheres of at least some planets. Well, you gather enough data that way, you can find out, hey, there's this planet over there. It's got oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen in the atmosphere. It shows signs of industrial pollution. Oh, they got a civilization there, and they're making textiles or what have you because they're producing nitrous oxide or things like that. You'd realize, hey, we can actually figure out with just telescopes what planets seem to be life-bearing and potentially are industrializing. And we have that just barely within our grasp right now, with future telescopes even more so. So quite honestly, the aliens know if we're here, if they have advanced technology, even if we're not trying to get their attention. So don't worry about that. They already know too much.
But they think that we're living in a world of black and white without color.
Mm.
And we're all named Lucy and Ethel.
Just the fact that we haven't been too active lately is what I was kind of advocating for.
Oh, yes. I should also mention this. The SETI Institute. So they're headquartered in the Bay Area in California. They have their own radio telescope array called the Allen Telescope Array up in Northern California. And they are completely privately funded. If they have money, it's because people decided to donate to them. The reason that telescope array is called the Allen Telescope Array is because they were given money by Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft. For like 5 minutes back in the 90s, they got government funding, and then folks in Congress were like, we're not going to spend money on looking for little green men, and they shut that down real fast. So SETI has been almost completely either a small academic exercise or something completely privately funded. So yeah, if it's going to grow, either Congress is going to decide to spend money on this, which doesn't look likely near term, or a lot of people like you, Jeremiah, just really want it to happen and are willing to fundraise for SETI.
Right.
And I'm sure Seth Shostak in particular would love that.
Yeah, good question.
Well,
that was a question I
don't
didn't
really
think
have
we
anything I could-
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
I was just saying I don't really have anything I can contribute that way, but just wanted to, kind of see what y'all thought on the subject, and I really kind of got to get offline pretty quick here, but that was
Okay.
I just wanted to open it up for discussion and get your opinion, and I appreciate your thoughts on it.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
All right.
Good
Have
night.
a good one.
Bye. Yeah, I definitely think the search is worthwhile, even if it finds nothing, because that lack of evidence is still telling us something about how crowded the neighborhood is. So we still learn something that way.
Mhm.
Negative evidence reduces
Right.
the areas we have to look. We do that in particle physics. We can do that with alien physics.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's get some more, because it always it raises the level of technology and all the things out there,
Yeah. It's also worth noting because, like I said, because I did get to do that internship with them, they also, show all the other stuff they're doing. And here's the important thing. The way they actually search for aliens is not like they showed like in Contact with Jodie Foster with a set of headphones listening for prime numbers. What's going on is that they basically take these signals and they split it. So like half of it's going for like scientific research and the other half is being passed through a bank of computers looking for what they call narrowband signals, because that's a sign of artificiality, that stars, planets, galaxies, they tend to have their radiation like pretty evenly spread out, or in some sort of nice distribution. Having something like really spike in a short window of wavelengths, that's a sign of artificiality, because that's what you do if you want an antenna to pick things up and tune to it, just like you do on the radio. So they basically just have computers looking for that, and that's at least one of the major techniques. So it's easy to do passively while you also do regular radio astronomy. So it's like, hey, we can do science and find out if we're not alone at the same time. So we absolutely should be doing it. It's a great 2-for-1.
Did you used to live out here in California?
Only for that summer that I was in the Mountain View area.
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half south of that, right next to the coast. That's where I'm at. It's a beautiful place to be. What do you think of the WOW signal?
That also
That's
connects
the most
with me well
exciting
because
thing I've heard in a while.
Oh yeah. Well, the WOW signal itself was detected, before my time. It's from the 70s.
Yeah,
It was
70s.
actually so. And funny enough, I'm even connected to that because it was detected at Ohio State, and that's where I did my PhD for physics. So it's a small world.
Oh.
There was actually a recent study about that, about how the signal could have been a misunderstood, not a comet. I'm trying to remember exactly what natural phenomenon they think they have tracked it down to, but at this point it's exciting because it was exactly the kind of signal that people would say you would expect to look for if it were aliens. But the fact that we've never been able to repeat the signal, and you always have to wonder what are all the other possibilities for something you can't repeat, so it kind of drives people bonkers. So there's been lots and lots of hypotheses. I can't remember what the most recent explanation for it is, but it seems at least plausible enough that I don't consider it a good candidate for proof that somebody was trying to get our attention. Love to be wrong, though.
I like the way the way it was handled. People are then how science is dealing with that. They're just like, wow, that was cool. Now we have to wait and see. But I mean, it's not like they went to the press and they said, we found proof of aliens and all. I liked the way the science community dealt with it. And I think it's just exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me feel
Yeah.
good because if we're going to get anything, it would be some kind of radio signal, probably. I mean, we're not going to ever have them visiting us or us visiting them. I mean, this isn't a world of science fiction we're living in right now, but it is exciting to think that might have been something.
Well, you never know. I did see this weird blue box outside of my condo the other day. Some weird person with a fez and a bow tie came out, and I was like, geez, he's not a regular from around here. Then the next day he was gone.
Oh. Could it have been you from the future?
No, because I've only worn a bow tie once, and that's enough. I did it for my wedding and no other time.
It might be the thing you wear in the future. Now that you've said it here on the line, you know that your future self knows now.
That actually does remind me of a test that Stephen Hawking did for time travelers.
I love that one.
Party.
Oh, yes. Tell that story. That's excellent.
Yes. So he has this great test to see if time travel exists. So what he did is Stephen Hawking had a party at his house with, balloons, all that sort of stuff. And then the next day he sent out the invitations. No one showed up for his party. So no time travelers. So pretty good evidence.
I love that. I mean, that's brilliant. He had it catered and, music and, who wouldn't want to hang out with Stephen Hawking? It's just, of course they would have come. The time travelers would have come. I think it's a clever little thing.
Yeah. A very fun thing. And it requires a whole bunch of weird things to posit otherwise, such as time travel prime directive, whatchamacallit, which is basically the same way saying nobody travels back in time. So, it's consistent with the evidence that there is no time travel.
Right.
Or at least no backwards causal time travel. Let's be careful. We're traveling forward 1 second per second. Pretty darn well.
Yeah, I think we are. Do we have any other callers?
Oh, absolutely. We got quite a few callers lined up. So let us bring in Caleb, pronouns he, him, from Kansas. And it says his stepfather is a believer in giants. So this is a big question, big topic. Caleb, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I can hear you guys. How are you guys today?
Ooh, giants. That sounds interesting. What kind of giants?
So he believes in the Kandahar giant and the Nephilim, obviously, along with the Watchers. He believes in those guys.
I've got family in Kansas City, by the way. I was just there last year. Very nice area.
So help me fill this in a little bit, Caleb. I've heard of the Nephilim, but the Kandahar giant, this is news to me.
Yeah. So the Kandahar giant is supposedly a 8-foot or 9-foot tall giant that was spotted in the Middle East by a group of highly trained military professionals trying to go in on some sort of top secret mission, and then all the people got killed or something like that. I've tried explaining it to my stepfather about how the guy who reported that story is the guy who believes aliens came down and helped build the pyramids, that there were ancient alien civilizations on Earth, and I don't think I've gone through to him on that part.
Okay, this is interesting.
Here's how I would approach it is I would be more interested in how your relationship with your stepfather. I believe that I think that we really need to pick our battles when it comes to people we love and people we have to associate with and allow them to kind of come out of it on their own and saving face instead of us telling them whatever. And I'm sure, Caleb, you're from Kansas City. I'm sure you're a nice person. And so I'm sure you would never fall for telling him he's wrong or anything of that sort. because you want to be there for him whenever he has questions about things that are very serious that really impact his life, like, ending treatment, going against his medical advice, or, not getting vaccinated, these kinds of things. So if you have respectful conversations with your stepfather about things like giants, and, he may be just pulling your leg. I don't know. That's what my dad would say. But just to mess with you.
I wish he was sometimes. I wish he was.
Because that's really interesting. What a thing to believe in, of all the pseudoscience out there. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, I would lean into it. I would have fun with it, and I think I would have a fun relationship with my stepfather if I had one. Be like, yeah, that's really cool. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? But just to keep the relationship and the conversation going. So, and allow him to figure it out. Allow him to save face. Because, I mean, the more he doubles down, the less likely he's going to ever admit he was ever wrong. So let him figure it out.
Alrighty. Another thing. I do have a perpetual motion machine, but it does have a hidden battery in it. Just don't got to tell anyone about it. Dr. Adair, I remember a few months ago you were talking about how Moses was a Egyptian folklore character. I was looking online and reading your paper about it. I found it incredibly interesting, and I just got to pick it up and start reading it again.
You might be careful; it'll put you to sleep.
Oh, I think I could trudge through
Yeah,
it.
that paper is... Yeah, just so everyone has background here. So I published a paper earlier this year in the Scandinavian Journal of the Old Testament to suggest that the origin of Moses' name comes from a different Egyptian root, and it suggests that the character himself was actually completely of Egyptian origin sometime after the conquest of Alexander the Great. So he would not have been around in 1500 BC as a Bible literalist would have, but instead would emerge out of Egyptian folklore in the late 4th century BC, so like 1,000 years later. And yeah, a lot of the evidence is ultimately linguistic, which basically means have they know the difference between a sibilant and an ion is the sort of stuff that just makes people cry because it's so boring. So if you can get through the paper, congratulations, because I go back and I reread my own stuff and I can't read my own work without falling asleep.
Hey, Caleb, have you gone and seen that World War I museum in Kansas City? Because it's amazing.
I have not. I did go to, well, when I took a school trip to Washington, D.C., I did go to the Vietnam Museum and, not the Vietnam Museum, the Memorial for Vietnam, World War I and World War II, and I really enjoyed it. I'll have to go to that one, though. You said it was in
I'm
Kansas
telling
City?
you, it's superb. It is superb. I've never seen, they do barrack, what's it called, during the war where they had the trenches. I've never seen anything like that. They show you the trenches from the French, from the Germans, from the British, from the Americans, and what those trenches would have looked like. And oh my gosh, it's powerful. It is so powerful. Yeah, that museum is definitely, I went back to Kansas City to try to see some family of mine, and I just, because I had downtime, I went to that museum, and it was incredible. Best World War I museum I've ever seen, and I've been to a lot of museums.
Definitely
I
going to
know
note
that's
that
off
down.
topic, but
Oh, no, it's okay. My final thing was going to be going to Dave because I have family who are also military veterans. My mother spent a tour in Iraq and Afghanistan along with my stepfather, who we were talking about earlier. And I know all the pain and the hardships that he's going through because I've had to see it, not because it directly happened to me, but I see how it has affected my family members and the people how I love. And it's sometimes it's tough, but always being there for him, that's always the best thing to do.
Mhm.
I'm hoping his thoughts about what's currently happening or what is currently happening won't negatively affect me too much, because I recently did enlist to go into the Navy for aviation electronics. So hopefully it doesn't happen. That's what I can say.
Hmm. Well, on that, I will quote the great Yogi Berra. It's really hard to make predictions, especially about the future.
Yep. Absolutely true.
Well, thank you, Caleb.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Dr. Adair. I enjoyed talking to you guys today.
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to chat with you.
Absolutely. Bye.
Good night. I tried to do some quick Googling about this Kandahar giant story, and
Did you come up with
apparently everything
Wikipedia
about
first
it.
off? I think so.
The first thing that actually came up was Cryptid Wiki about this.
Ooh.
And going by the description, it sounds like the entire story is just like one episode of Coast to Coast from 2002. So, not exactly.
I mean, there's worse things to believe in.
True. It's a bit funny as well, just because, well, my first thought was, okay, what's the line of transmission here? Because for a while, I was teaching high school, and I actually had a student from Kabul, and I was actually one of his first, like, formal teachers in his life, because he basically was, living in Kabul, not in conditions where the education system is functioning, and made friends with the army and had reasons to bring him to the US of A. And so I was one of his first actual teachers. And, he was telling me some of the stories of what he had, growing up as a kid in Afghanistan. And plenty of other, supernatural claims. He never mentioned giants, but he did mention like talismans that would protect you from bullets and things like that.
That's interesting. It could be cultural. Yeah, I was wondering why he came up with that story, but I don't know. It just sounded like Dad's messing with you.
Especially the fact that it's about this red-headed giant, because there's alleged Native American myths of red-headed giants as well that were cannibals and things like that. This sounds like translation of that folklore into another context, and just every time you go to the scary other world, that's where the monsters are. That's where the Here Be Dragons is on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. All right. So when it comes to dragons, though, so our next caller, Chris from Colorado, wants to talk even more about aliens. Ooh, man, so many aliens tonight. So many aliens. Chris.
Hey.
Tell us what you got.
Chris.
How's it going? Hi, Susan.
Hi.
All right. So I wanted to call in, talk about aliens. I missed it the last time you guys talked about aliens. I was just on the line and then the show ended. But I guess there's a lot of definitions of alien. Of course, we're going with the extraterrestrial, right? Not the law. And
yeah, space aliens.
Yeah, space aliens. I'm inclined to believe that they exist, just not in the way that I guess the common, like sci-fi movie depiction explains.
Okay.
So when you say that, do you mean they exist but they don't travel here, or they exist and when they travel here it doesn't look anything like what Steven Spielberg suggests?
Yeah, so you say travel here, and I don't think that they travel. Let's see. So like not an extraterrestrial intelligence type of extraterrestrial, but an extraterrestrial in the sense that life form which does not originate on Earth.
Okay.
You're saying not intelligent, so like bacteria?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, we can start with bacteria, or like microbes or things of that nature. Like just in a form of where it's not like a intelligent type of like communicative type of life form.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
It could have floated in on some sort of particle from some kind of rock, asteroid, something.
Panspermia.
Yeah, it just landed
Yeah.
here, and I'm up with that. That's okay. I could go with that. But how do we know? How do we know once the asteroid hits Earth and they find it somehow that it wasn't created on Earth and it's not from Earth origin? Because all material, I believe, in the universe is all. I mean, there's nothing new. I mean, how do I say this? The laws of nature are the laws of nature everywhere. That's I understand.
No doubt, for sure. What I guess, to make it a little bit more clear, whatever happened on Earth that spawned life, whether you're abiogenesis or panspermia or whatever, happened somewhere else, or is happening somewhere else as we speak. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a hypothesis that's at least actively being pursued. It's not. It may not be the mainstream view of how life emerged on Earth, but it's one of the candidates that we can't discount, and there's at least enough reasons to investigate it. I mean, they'll point to things like, hey, it seems like certain bacteria, and especially certain tiny creatures like, not troglobites, oh gosh, the little water bear. I'm forgetting the scientific name for it. Tardigrades, yes. That they seem to be strangely hardy to things like heat, cold, and radiation in ways that you might think, what do you need for that if you're going to live on the surface of the Earth? But if you were having to travel through empty space and have to handle the cold, dark, radiation-filled vacuum for thousands of years, it's like, oh, okay, maybe it could explain things like that. So it's at least a hypothesis we can pursue. If our biology folks on the line were here, they could probably say other things about that. But I would imagine if microbes from another part of the galaxy were showing up, there are things we could look for to say, oh, they're not of this world. Because one is, we can't be sure, would life that emerged independently of Earth have DNA? That's one possibility. And if we find creatures that don't use DNA, if they use some completely different molecule, that would immediately say, hey, they have a completely different origin than the rest of life. But maybe it's the case that even DNA is nearly universal for biology. Maybe it's just far and away the best molecule for doing that stuff. But even so, it's going to have a completely different evolutionary history. So you might look and say, hey, its arrangement doesn't fit into any of the other trees of life that we have for the rest of our life forms. We can't say, oh, it's got this much in common with these other bacteria or these other eukaryotes. It's like, hey, its structure is completely different. It still has the ability to process oxygen, but doesn't have a mitochondria. There are things I could imagine a good biologist could look for and say, that's weird. But as of right now, no one has successfully found examples of that, to the best of my knowledge.
Right. And how, I guess since we're on the topic of belief, how do you believe that life originated on the planet? What does the facts point to more on this planet?
Again, this is outside of my expertise, so I'm just going to say the very weird things that I can try to pretend I know about. My understanding is this, is that the leading hypotheses are that the early Earth could allow for chemistry that can become more and more complex over time. There are studies that even suggest that certain types of molecules can even have a selection factor, so like an early form of natural selection even existing at the molecular level before you get to the first reproducing cell. One of the major hypotheses out there as well is what's called the RNA world hypothesis, where RNA, it's very similar to DNA in that it can encode genetic information, but unlike DNA, it can also process and make proteins and things like that, so it can actually do more functions than DNA. And one of the things it seems like is that it can actually form spontaneously in environments that we think would have been representative of the early Earth. So my understanding is that there's evidence to believe that those sorts of things could arise naturally, and through a lot of chemistry and selective pressures, it can actually lead to the first kinds of life. But it's still an open question of what are all the steps? How much do we know things? What's still hypothesis versus what we have a good handle on? And I do not have the expertise to speak to that.
Right. And that inclines me to believe, that's why I'm more inclined to believe that there is extraterrestrial life out there, because we know that there's early Earth out there, even right now. So, I mean, if it can happen here, and I know that's a fallacy, don't worry, I've been through them all. But if it can happen here, why not elsewhere in the universe?
You're 100% right.
Mm-hmm. It's why I don't discount it. I'm just waiting to find the direct evidence to say, oh, yep, we found it. I would love to find that out. That would be so amazing, and I'm so totally open for it. I would say, though, that we might have better luck finding that evidence of the possibility of life in other worlds if we do a bit of exploring rather than here on Earth, if we go digging out into the solar system. So especially I'm thinking places like the icy moon of Europa, because we know that moon of Jupiter has a gigantic ocean underneath its ice, and it has more water than all the surface water on the Earth. Is there something swimming in there? It's a possibility, and if we go down there and we find life actually emerged there, then the probability that life exists elsewhere in the universe just skyrockets.
Yeah. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we just gotta fund a lot more to NASA to make that even begin to be a possibility.
A penny for NASA,
call your senator.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, you said it right. We got to figure it out for sure, definitively. But I don't know. I'm atheist, so I'm more along the lines of the abiogenesis. But it always hit me as to, well, if it can happen here, why not anywhere else?
I would say that, totally plausible. It's just a matter of how many worlds like Earth exist out there that can have the test tubes to mix all the chemicals up to do that. And that's one of the things that we are currently exploring and probing, because we now have the technology to actually find Earth-like worlds, and we have found lots of possible candidates for that kind of thing, where there are worlds that are around the same size as the Earth in what's called the habitable zone of other stars. And we actually now have statistical data to back up and say, yeah, there are worlds out there like that, but are there enough out there that are close enough to Earth to actually produce the sorts of chemical soups that we think our early Earth had? And that's still an open question. So fund NASA, hug an astronomer, do the things that need to be done to make the science happen.
Yeah, and oh shoot, here's a good one. This leads me to okay, well, if you just fast forward a couple million years or a billion years or whatnot, put them on the other side of the universe, maybe they could be intelligent, just never able to communicate with us. But that's another thing, that's imaginary stuff. But
Well, honestly, it's if aliens exist in the Milky Way galaxy, they're more likely to be far away than close, because galaxy's huge. The probability of them being close, in the sense of close that we could actually have a two-way conversation in a human lifetime, is absurdly small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's about it. I appreciate you for engaging me there. I really wanted to hear what Susan had to think about what I was saying there. Not the big, gray aliens with the almond eyes or whatever, but the microbes. You know what I mean?
Sure, I don't have a problem. If somebody told me that they were here, I wouldn't be shocked.
Nice.
It's not my area.
Bring on the aliens. We want to talk.
Okay.
Right,
Thank you so much,
right.
Chris.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you,
so
Chris.
much.
Good night.
Bye.
Oh, man.
That's
Everyone
alien
wants to
talk.
talk about aliens.
Why is that? You notice they're men. I find that gender of pseudoscience is fascinating. If you're talking about, and I don't have the answer, we can only speculate, but in the world of healing, the world of psychics, it's women. In the world of conspiracy theories, perpetual motion machines, 9/11 hoaxes or non-moon landing hoaxes, UFOs, flat Earth, it's almost all predominantly male. Why? That's a good question. Now, I talked to a flat earther who came to one of our skeptic camps in LA, and he was an ex-flat earther because he'd gone to the Antarctic. I don't know if you're following the final experiment. Aaron, did you follow that?
Oh, would this be Jaren?
Yeah, Jaren. And so I asked him this question: why is UFOlogy so male-dominated? And there's a video, I have it up on my channel with him answering this question. He said it's because that it wasn't very kind. He said that the people who are UFOlogists are, a lot of them are basement dwelling people, still living at home with their moms, and that they hate women. And when women finally are able, because they've been refuted by women for so long, that whenever finally a woman enters their space of being a flat earther also, they want to tell them off and they just can't handle it. And so they want to be smarter than them, and then they just make sexist suggestions to him, and they just completely ruin it, and the women just leave. That's what he told me. So I don't know, but it just seems like they're so interested. Men are so interested in anything mechanical. I mean, I know of course there's gray areas in that too, but why is it that I don't know. Somebody can do a PhD on this.
I could imagine one way of pursuing that is the media involved. So if I think back to like early 20th century stories, movies that deal with aliens, one is that it's usually combative, and that becomes more male dominated in general. I mean, especially when you have films like The Thing from Outer Space. The entire cast is male because it's an army base movie. So everything almost has to be male for that, and it's becomes part of the greater mythos, and so it already has that sort of male association. It has that military association. Trying to think back, it's been a long time since I read The War of the Worlds from H.G. Wells, but again, that's about combat, about space aliens fighting us. So it has that military colonialist edge. So it has that masculine attachment. So that could be part of it. But again, you're right. There's at least 2 PhDs in answering this question.
I just think it's, people in the chat are saying that it's social constructs too. And I mean, it could very well be, but I just find it odd, that you just enter into this world of ufology, and it's just male after male after male after male that wants to talk about it. And
well, how about I bring in an exception, because our next caller wants to talk about aliens, and going by her name, she might break the stereotype. So let's bring in Erin. So Erin, she, her, from Nevada, says
Nevada,
she doesn't believe in aliens. Oh, well, she says she doesn't believe in aliens, but thinks UAPs are interesting. All right, so Erin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I assume I'm coming through good. Yeah, I guess I'll break the stereotype a little bit, but not really. Uh, I do find it interesting that you say they're all men. I would say that's how it is for the people at like the top, like the big names. Though there are a number of women. There's like that. I think a congresswoman, something Luna,
Yeah.
and a couple of the other like people in government pushing for it are also women. I find that the actual like base community of like hardcore UFO believers tend to be pretty evenly split, in my opinion. It's more just that the people that get elevated to the top tend to be men.
Hmm.
It very well could
Yeah.
be. I know that they're heavily military and police focused. Whenever you talk to the
Yeah.
UFO proponents, or in the flat, well, mainly the UFO people and the conspiracy theory kind of people, they're very much like, but a cop was saying this, or a military said this, or how dare you attack our military heroes? These are our pilots and they're our heroes. And you're like, wait a minute. No. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess because they seem to be more militaristic focused, maybe that's why they tend to be more male. That's
That
possible.
definitely might be possible. Yeah,
Hmm.
I do tend to see a lot of like overblowing of military testimony. And it's like if a military pilot is seeing something again and again, or it leads to some credence to it, but it's often treated as like an absolute when it shouldn't be. Yeah.
I definitely agree,
But
and all the more so if it's not corroborated by other soldiers, other sensors. Uh,
right.
yeah, people misidentify things all the time, and just because you're wearing camo doesn't make your eyes better at detecting supernatural lights.
Exactly. Um, yeah, I guess to get on to the topic that I called in on, I don't believe in aliens, as in I don't like put any kind of certainty or anything on the idea of aliens. I think they probably exist somewhere in the universe, like the last caller was talking about. But whether they're anywhere close to us or not is anybody's guess. Uh, I just think that there is enough unexplained incidents surrounding like UFO UAP events that it shouldn't be completely dismissed like I often see it, uh, and that it instead should be investigated, but obviously still very skeptically. Uh, and it's hard to find people who are like in that middle ground where, because I find a lot of skeptic communities will outright dismiss things to the point where you can't even convince them, like, hey, maybe there should be a little bit of funding to look at weird things in the sky. And then you've got the other side that are, no, they're absolutely here and there's no question.
Well, Mick West would 100% agree with you, and I would agree with you. If there's something buzzing our military bases, I think we need to know. I think the problem is that some people default to it's an alien, it's a space alien, and the government wants to hide it and cover it up, and they won't allow investigation to go correctly, but we sure as heck need to know what's in our skies, especially anything that shouldn't be there. And I think that they've got this new office, Arrow, I think is what it's called, and is
Yeah,
looking into
Arrow.
with Sean Kirkpatrick. He used to run it, and then he just recently retired. But the hate he gets, oh my gosh, because he says we turned over every rock, and we couldn't find anything. And
Mm,
at a certain point, you got to
I
come
get
up, you got
some
to
of the.
default to
Oh,
science.
sorry, I interrupted you. My bad.
Oh, go ahead.
I get some of the dislike of Kirkpatrick, I don't think he deserves as much as he gets, but I think there are like some instances of him claiming answers to things and then those answers not making any sense. I think a good example is the recent Washington Post article, where they were talking about the Robert Salas event with the like nukes being turned off essentially, and he gives what he claims is an answer to this event, a EMP test. But when you really look at the details of it, that explanation doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't be able to set up a 60-foot platform without anybody noticing, and then set up all of these things, and then activate the test. And the EMP device they claimed would have done this was only in like very early like research and prototype, like 5 to 10 years after this event happened. And then the weirdness of testing that on your own nuke. In addition, that the blast of the EMP wouldn't be large enough to have hit all of the nukes it hit, so they would have had to set up a number of them. It just doesn't really work together. It doesn't mean the event was aliens or something, but the explanation he gives just doesn't really work. But it's presented as the answer, so people who are prone to completely dismiss the idea go, oh, awesome, there's an answer. And they never do any kind of deeper look into it.
So you're talking about is it the Milgram? What was it? I don't know how familiar you are with
the name of the base.
Yeah, in the 1970s, right? So isn't this the one that Brian Denning talked about in his movie, the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See?
I actually don't know. I've never really seen any of those big UFO documentary movies.
Right. Well, this one, I think
this is the one you should
Somebody
see.
was in a silo, and
it was in Montana.
And there was some sort of, now I might be confusing this with another one, but I believe if it's the one that was in Brian Denning's documentary on aliens or UFOs, he said that, well, they looked into it, and the research was that nobody really did claim there was a space alien ship over the base until after.
Yeah, they claimed like a bright light.
Well,
floating in the air.
I might be getting them confused. There might be more than one. One guy said there was like the football stadium sized UFO hovering over the base. And then they went and they looked.
No. That was from a couple of years ago. Yeah, that was from 10
I'm
years
talking
ago.
about the one in the UFO movie the Dunning had. Oh gosh. And I thought it was the same one. And then they supposedly shut down
the
problem with the power outages. And then they traced it back, and it was just power outages to the town because they were using the power from, there was some kind of surge in the town, and it caused the nuclear base to have or the military base to have a surge, and then the machines had to restart. That's what I remember from the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See, Brian Denning Skeptoids movie. I've seen that a few times, but I think it's the same thing, which is curious to me because I thought that was already debunked a long time ago. So
we might be thinking of different events. I'm thinking of what happened at the Maelstrom Air Force. I believe this was in the 60s. Maelstrom Air Force. It was in the 60s. They reported like a bright light above, like in the distance, or like high in the air above their thing, and then all of the 10 silos went lost power at the exact same time. And I think I've heard explanations of it was a power surge, but several of these things had independent power sources.
So
from what I
Now, if
understand.
I remember,
So it
some
wouldn't.
of the details here is that when you say they reported, I think there's one problem there, is that there wasn't a they reporting this. I think this comes down to actually one person talking about their experience working there, but decades later in their old age. So it's not
yeah,
actually, for understand, in the original government reports. So there's memory issues, there's conflation of events. So it's kind of hard to break down what happened because we're basically going by one person's recollection half a lifetime later.
right. I found
I
it on
believe there were
Skeptoid.
like documents found, and like one or two other people, and a couple other people who worked there at the same time as him supporting it. But I'd have to look more into it.
I think
So
their
if it
memories
is
are
the case that it's just
30 years.
completely unreal, then I
Right.
wonder why Kirkpatrick would talk about the idea of an EMP device instead of just going, "Oh, this event didn't happen at all."
Well, think about how much Kirkpatrick knows, and he might have misspoke. The article I'm thinking of is "The Day the UFO Deactivated the Nukes." It's a Skeptoid episode, and it's written so you don't have to listen to it if you don't want to listen to it. But it was 1967, and I believe it's been debunked a long time ago. And again, it was bad memory, and power surge. And Kirkpatrick, can you imagine the life that guy's had? He was voluntold that he was going to take on this assignment before he retired. His wife and kids have been threatened and doxxed. He's had to have special security. I mean, I can't even imagine what a nightmare this man has gone through. And if he forgets something or he misstates something, heck, I misstate things probably 10 times already in this show. And more power to him. Gosh, I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have gone through your military career, and you've been in situations that are really scary and awful and horrible, and you're about done with your career, and your wife says, "Yes, you're going to retire. Great, you're going to see the grandkids." And then now he's got these people that are just think of UFO as a religion, and it's like a cult in some of these people's cases, and they just can't let go, and they're attacking him and finding fault with him, and just I can't even imagine what Sean Kirkpatrick must be going through. But anyway, check out that episode. It's Skeptoid.
I'll check it out.
The day the UFO deactivated the nuke.
Yeah, personally, I'm like I'm fine with the idea of it being completely mundane, and like people should be ready for any answer that ends up being the most supported. Yeah, I just wish there was a way to separate the genuine research and like genuine investigation from the, I know it's sort of like crankery.
Right, and
In
until
some
they get
ways,
the religion out of
Something
it.
genuinely unexplainable, like went under the radar because we dismissed it out of hand.
Yeah. In some ways, though, that's kind of what Arrow has tried to do, in my understanding, is, all right, let's actually, try to figure out where these stories are coming from, and apparently upsetting people when they find out it's like, hey, we can't actually show this as alien stuff. And also, in a lot of cases, that we can't tell what it is because there's just not enough information.
Right.
Susan, you mentioned Mick West, and he coined a phrase that I think is extremely useful here, the LIZ, the low information zone, where you can't tell what's going on, and so your brain comes in and it just fills in the gaps, and the only reason it's aliens is because you can't see it clearly enough to see, oh, it's a bird, oh, it's a mirage, oh, I shouldn't have drunk that much, or whatever sensor issue it is because it's just on the edge of what your sensor can barely even notice, so it's not sharp, and once you're able to finally have the tech that can sharpen in, the phenomenon disappears. It's one of the powerful things I think Mick has put together. So it's a term I like to use, and I think it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, Mick West is
he gets a lot of
he
gets a lot of harassment he doesn't deserve.
I mean,
like I disagree with him on the. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I disagree with him on the TAC event, but a lot of his work is genuinely good and does debunk the things he's trying to debunk. So I'd say the TAC event specifically, like his biggest known one, just doesn't add up. I really recommend. I'm gonna have to leave the call pretty soon. Sorry. This was a great conversation. Thank you. I'll just recommend anybody look up the debate. It's pretty long, about 4 hours, but it's a debate between Mick West and a guy named Merrick von Rennenkampf, both debating the Tic Tac event, and the what's it called, the gimbal event. It's really fascinating, regardless of which side you end up on for either of them.
Okay.
Well, so you said it was with Mick West, and who was the other person? The other name wasn't familiar to me.
Merrick, Marik, I believe, Von, and then Rennenkampf, but I don't know how to spell that. I would have to.
It's not the guy who believes in the Malaysian flight guy, is it? The one who says that it was...
No, that's Forbes.
Well, that's Forbes.
Yeah, Forbes. He's wild. His Professor Dave, the YouTuber, just did a video on him, and it's great.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. I like Professor Dave. Yeah, I think the problem is they just, it's become, like I say, it's become a religion and a cult to some people, just and that makes the people who are legitimately looking for answers and are open to, coming up with solutions, it just shuts them down, and there's just so much hate. I mean, the things I'm called, it's just amazing, and the way they treat me it's hard not to take it personal, and I have a tough enough skin that I can deal with it, but a lot of people are drummed out of this, and it's just wrong, because when somebody tries to explain something and they try to figure it out and they show their work, like Mick West always does, why, if you come after this little anomaly that maybe they misspoke or they didn't quite get it right, and that's what they're attacked, it's like, can we just look at the bigger picture here? And they're trying to do good work, and they're trying to show their work, and let's give them a benefit of the doubt a little bit, and get the religion and the cultism
really
out of this.
And I'm sorry you've gone through that. That's awful. Like,
I don't know if it's because I'm a woman,
and that turns people away from genuine research.
Right. It's been really. It was tough at the first few months whenever I got so much hate. Now I've learned to block and mute people, and I'm pushing back on them, and they're starting to calm down. But my goodness, the stuff they come up with is like Pizzagate stuff. Like there's children underneath the in a pizza parlor in Washington D.C.
Like I've heard people saying like Mick West is like secretly a government agent, and he's paid by the government to do UFO disinformation, and it's like, no, he just made a software that you can use to like model plane movements.
There's a lot of money in this too. Well, I was going to say is that they've treated me and Mick West as supervillains, because if we're supervillains and we're attacking their work or whatever it is we're supposed to be doing, then they don't have to show their work. They can just attack us, and that brings in this whole community of people who are like, "Look, we're being attacked, so we must, fortify ourselves, and we're just villains." And I hope I I'm not a villain. Do people really think I'm a villain? Do I look evil or something? They call me evil. They say I work for the DOD and all kinds of stuff.
I think it's really easy to fall into that kind of idea of basically conspiracy brain, just because, like, I think a big part is, like, it's not like there aren't real conspiracies. Like,
oh, yeah.
And then when you realize one or two of them are real, it becomes a question of, okay, how many others are real? And you can fall into this spiral where, like, because it's so hard to tell the difference between the real one and the fake one, sometimes you can end up just believing in all of them.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope of some sort. Aaron, thank you so much. That was a really great to talk to a female about UFOs. and you seem very well informed.
Thank you.
Check out Brian Dunning's movie called the UFO movie. They don't want you to watch or something like that. But anyway, that Skeptoid
something like
episode.
that. I'm sure it'll come up if I Google it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will check that out. Thank you both for the
Appreciate it, Aaron.
conversation. Yep.
Stay in touch.
I just hope whatever happens in the future, they can like actually investigate this stuff. Get whatever his name, Grush, and a skiff or whatever. All that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get a better answer in the future.
Yes.
Sorry, what was that
and
last
one
thing
other
you
important
said?
thing.
Susan, what was that last thing you said? I misheard you.
I said they need to buy him an airline ticket. Isn't that the one that couldn't buy his airline ticket to go to the skiff?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure that was like a whole different thing. He's been in meetings. We just haven't heard any information so far yet. He's been in a number of them, from what I understand. Yeah, I think you're thinking of I think it might have been some other UFO guy, but who knows?
Yeah, I get them all confused some days.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Most importantly, though, Aaron, before you go, there's one thing I need you to do. I need you to call up your parents and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, thank you for giving me a really good name," because it was a very good choice to go with Aaron.
I chose that one myself, actually.
Then you chose very well.
Choice, huh? It's from one Aaron to another Aaron.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for the call. I hope you guys have a good rest of the call and the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
The Aaron was pretty advanced on what they were saying. I mean, they're up to date. I'm surprised I haven't seen Brian Dunning's movie, because that seems like it answers a lot of the questions that people are asking. You've seen that, right?
Yes, I've watched it. I can't remember if I watched it before or after it went for free on YouTube. That I'm fogging, but I know I've watched it, and I remember that, yeah, Brian Dunning did talk about especially the missile silo nukes going off story. And
I think it's the same story.
Yeah. It seems like it.
Well, when I Googled it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's the same story, and this has been dealt with before, so why are we still talking about... That's the thing. If it's been dealt with and we have pretty much the answer, we know what's going on, and you're right about the faulty memory. I think they interviewed him like 45 years afterwards or something. Some crazy number like that.
It's the sort of thing that happens so much. The things get crazy because you waited a crazy long amount of time to get the actual facts, and then it's like, oh wow, people don't remember things as well as they claim to. Just as an anecdote from a previous time I was here on the line, we had a caller in trying to say the truth about near-death experiences, and he points to this one doctor and with his amazing story. And my first question to the caller was, okay, when does this event happen, and how much time was there between the event happening and the report you had? And the caller kind of refused to say, made it sound like it was something close. And it's like, all right, well, I finally, I'm Googling at the same time this is going on. It's like, all right, I find the video he's talking about is from 2019. And there's fortunately subtitles for the person talking. And I read, it's like, all right, so this happened to me when I was a young doctor in 1980. So it's like, 39 years have gone by. Is this really the reliable sort of way we're going to prove the afterlife? I'm sorry, but no.
It's interesting. All right. Do we have anybody who wants to talk about something besides UFOs? And
no,
Perpetual
we have another person who wants to talk, but it's aliens, and more aliens. So we have one more caller in queue. This is, I think, a different Jeremiah from Texas. Also wants to talk about if the aliens are like the aliens in Alien. Jeremiah,
hello.
Are you there?
I am here. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Susan. Good to talk to you.
Hello.
I've actually talked to you before, Aaron, so this is a hello again.
But not today, have you? We have two Jeremiahs from Texas? How is that possible?
Yep, two Jeremiahs from Texas. They're just pure coincidence.
Okay.
The cosmos has spoken.
Anyway, I'm just hoping to pick your brains about a quick hypothetical, that being essentially like we find some kind of macroscopic alien life form, and just the way it functions is so outside of our understanding of biology that we find it horrifying. Like, how do the various aspects of humanity respond to such a discovery?
You mean like Project Hail Mary?
I'm not familiar with that.
You need to stop and go and read. Actually, listen to the audiobook Project Hail Mary. I'm surprised
Project
that more
Hail Mary,
people,
just to make sure.
yeah, I'm really shocked that there are more people in the UFO world who haven't read that. But listen to it. It's an audiobook. It's much better. You can thank me later. But oh my gosh, yeah. I can't say anymore because it'll spoil it. And it's a tremendous book. It's by
I recognize that author.
Andy Weir, right?
Andy Weir, yeah. He wrote The Martian.
Yep.
He also wrote Artemis, I think that's what it is.
Yes.
And he
I just
wrote
listened to
Project Hail
Artemis.
Mary. I couldn't stop talking about it. All my skeptic friends, we would hang out and we just wanted to talk about it because it was so freaking amazing. But anyway, so that I can't say much more because that's about your question that you're asking about a life form that is different. That we can't, it's like nothing else we've ever seen before. So anyway.
Well, that's going straight onto the list then. Thank you for the recommendation.
Well,
but
if we're going to have book recommendations,
audiobook.
yeah, but when it comes to book recommendations, again, I have to hawk my own wares. Aliens and Religion, Where Two Worlds Collide. The book I co-wrote with my friend Jonathan M.S. Pierce is a big question of how the various world religions react to or integrate or understand the existence of extraterrestrials. So a lot of the question is, like what kind of impact will it have? Which religious groups can easily incorporate it? Which ones are going to have a lot of explaining to do? Obviously, the UFO cult people are going to be having the greatest day of their life if we ever discover, true scientific evidence of extraterrestrials, because they'll just, shout and say, we told you, and then we'll have to be like, yeah, you did.
But we all want it. Funny. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's the same with people communicating with the dead. They say, how can you be such a skeptic about that kind of stuff? And it's like, because there's no evidence and it just makes no sense. And I can see the tricks, how they're being done. But I would love to be able to communicate with the dead. Gosh, man, I've got questions. I have questions. I want answered.
Yeah,
and
man, I've had some recent experiences that give me some empathy for that. I had a loss in the family a couple of months ago, so yeah, I feel that.
How grief can really get you. I mean, grief can make you from just, you could be the most skeptical person in the world out there and just nothing gets by you. And then when you're dealing with grief, I mean, it's such a horrible, it's like this ugly mass. And it's, well, you know what I'm talking about if you've had a recent loss. It's just so awful. And the ability to be able to communicate with that person one more time is, I could see
the allure.
I could see it definitely for sure. And if somebody came to me with magic beans and said that I can make it happen, and in that moment, I think I could possibly fall for it, especially if it was my child.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of those areas you can't deal with. I mean, it's one thing to have your parents die or your spouse or your peers die, but when it's a child, I haven't had that, but I can imagine that you would lose all semblance of logic. Anyway,
I don't really have anything to add to that. That is,
psychics.
Anyway, I guess that's about it. The book recommendation was book recommendations is more than enough, but I have one more question to ask Aaron before I let you go.
Okay. Ask Aaron.
Very unrelated, but Aaron.
He's a smart one.
Do you have a favorite Godzilla movie? And if so, which one is it?
Glad you didn't ask me.
So, okay, so you're probably asking in part because I have announced I'm working on a Godzilla book project with my wife. So we have watched all the films and are exploring a lot of the literature. In fact, it's out of shot, but I got a stack of Godzilla books over the corner here that I need to put into my brain. But one of the things I might need to do is rank all of the films and put, for example, Godzilla's Revenge at the very bottom and then dig a hole and then put it there. And then going from there, to me, I go back and forth between the original Japanese version of Gojira from 1954 or the most recent Godzilla -1. Those two, in my mind, are the two best in terms of message, in terms of cinema, in terms of storytelling and importance. Obviously, the original one having its limitations of the technology at the time, but it's, in some ways, I still look to it as like one of the greatest movies in terms of looking at the interactions between science and humanity and our responsibilities because of it. I think it does it in a much more nuanced way than many other stories. Like Jurassic Park, it's basically a retelling of Frankenstein, but with basically saying, yeah, we shouldn't do that. Godzilla's like, here's what we've done. What we can do to solve it, does it create even more problems? What sacrifices do we need to make to actually prevent more of these monsters from coming and destroying us? It is a very profound film when you look at it through that lens. -1 is extremely beautiful and psychological, and it's just amazing what they did with an absurdly tiny budget. Apparently it had a budget of under $15 million, and yet it looks like $1 billion. So that's in my mind of those two films being my top Godzilla films as of right now. Shin Gojira is also very high on the list as well. That also is an amazing monster. But some of the storytelling of it being a lot of meetings does slow it down compared to some of the other films. It's just feeling like I just want to engage with these people in this world and see and understand it more.
Oh yeah, I love Shin Godzilla. Anno's filmmaking is incredible. I don't want to get on a rant though, because it's very far off topic, but like, I wish you could see the grin on my face because I'm almost completely in sync with everything you've said, including putting Godzilla's Revenge at the bottom.
Well, I think most humans agree with that, so that's not a controversial claim.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I'll go ahead and let you guys go. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, point two. Two Jeremiahs in Texas. I wonder if we're going to just get Jeremiahs from Texas calling us. Everybody calls in. Change your name to Jeremiah from Texas.
All right.
Thank you, and
have
good
a good
night.
rest of your show.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Just thinking though, if we had a Jeremiah instead calling from Louisiana, would I just get stuck in a loop and think nothing about the caller except the song from CCR over and over in my head?
Jeremiah from Louisiana?
Jeremiah was
a bullfrog.
Sorry, that's where my brain goes.
I'm a little older than you, so that was a song round when I was around. What you got for me next? Who we got?
Well, we've actually gone through our supply of callers. We've exhausted them. They beamed away.
What? No way!
But this does give us
me.
the opportunity. Now, this does, of course, now mean that we can switch over to reading Super Chat. So those of you in the chat that you can have us read some sort of statement, we will call out your name and read there. Susan, you told me earlier on that you are a fan of puns.
Oh, I love puns. Yeah, good ones. Good puns.
Yes.
There's a distinction.
I was actually thinking earlier when you were wanting to talk about aliens, and sometimes it's the gray zone. And I'm like, of course it's the gray zone. It's aliens. The grays. Oh.
Yeah, the grays.
Yeah. I don't know how bad I can do with the puns, but I'm pretty sure I can take it down a notch in quality as we continue to go on.
Ooh, look at this. The screen just changed. That is so cool.
Yes. All right. So we tend to go back and forth in reading those. So Susan, if you want to read this person's name and their chat.
All right. So thank you from Moria Bannister for Susan, if possible. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah. Thanks, Moria. Moria.
All right. Now we got another $5 super chat coming from Elias Hana Silverbow. Did you hear about the insecure physicists? They were fissioned for compliments. A reporter asked an asteroid a question. He responded with, no comment.
That's a groaner. That's a two groan. Good one.
You got a 2 for $5. That's very efficient of you.
All right. So $5 from Jamnik06, a psychic with dwarfism. I'm not going to say that word. Robbed a bank, then evaded capture. Be on the lookout for a small, medium at large. By puns by request from Almagen. Amagen.
Amargan.
Amargan. Oh, okay. It's
Oh.
on. It's partly on one line and partly in another. I missed that.
Mhm. Though, admittedly, I usually see the small, medium at large when it comes to the psychic that's committed some sort of crime. So then it's a small, medium at large.
Yeah.
But hey, it's still a solid pun. We got £5 from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. Everyone talks about alien invasions, but what about alien-outs? Couldn't we just bounce space invaders back through indulging in American fast food?
Hey, I remember I was that generation that we brought quarters down to the laundromat to play asteroids and space invaders. Well, the girls got to watch boys play space invaders. I remember those days.
I'm now imagining the defense grid of the planet Earth. Just the entire planet Earth is surrounded by Arby's, and that keeps the aliens out.
I can remember that sound really clear. So is this me again?
Yeah.
The $5 from Gemnick06 made a sculpture with meat for an art contest. Judge said, a rare medium. Well done. Another pun for Armagen. Don't start a beef with mods. Too much at stake. Ooh.
All right, we got roasted on that one.
Ba-dum-bum.
$5 from Reality's Successor. Another side benefit of SETI is some of the algorithms they created for signal processing have been used to improve medical imaging for cancer. I did not know about that. I can definitely see the connection there. And if that's true, then, as you say, one more extremely wonderful side benefit of doing this sort of research.
Very cool.
Science, it works.
Science. Hey, from Canadian, $10. From Untitled Final V2, this version. Hi.
Another 10 Canadian dollars from Untitled Final V2, this version. Space aliens!
$5 from Space Barbarian. Big conspiracy, trademark, is out to make money from believers in conspiracies. I'll stick by that conspiracy theory. Good one, Space Barbarian.
Isn't that like the premise from a South Park episode? The government created conspiracies to hide what they're doing because they realize, I think it's specifically the way the South Park people is, Americans are so stupid they'll believe anything, so we'll just tell them this conspiracy theory to get them off our backs. And
there you go.
Technically, that's what the Wall Street Journal is telling us is what happened with the UAP stuff. So fiction
Wall
becomes
Street
reality,
Journal.
Reality becomes fiction.
And there's a second part out there, you guys. You got to read. Oh my goodness. Is this you or me?
You.
$4.99 from Hannah Hodgkins. Bad puns are punishments to the ears. Love y'all. Skull and a little sprout. Sprout. Love y'all.
We got $5 from President Starscream. Looking for extraterrestrial life? Just check your garages, your airfields, your motor pools. Perhaps there's more there than meets the eye. Transformers.
Dun, dun,
Sorry.
dun.
I
remember that one too. Boy, you are an old soul, Aaron. That's old stuff that you're really into.
Yeah, thank you. My back is loving being told that.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
This one's you.
Okay, £5
this one's your reading.
Okay, £5 from Jessica. Doo-doo McButtface. Playing Death Standing 2 came out today, so not really watching, but had to drop my obligatory Epson sucks, Grow Lilith's the cutest, and love you soon. Okay. I guess that's somebody regularly
Pokemon
writes in.
references.
Okay.
I felt a little bit out of the loop on this one. Thank you for informing us, American. All right, $5 from Avi Steiner. Everyone should go to the Chicago Skepticamp on July 27th.
This is a friend of mine, Avi. He is a little sprout. But yes, we're running Skepticamps all over the United States, and he is running one in Chicago, and I will be there on July the 27th, and he's absolutely right. Shout out to Avi.
Very cool. They're going all across the country, you say. So besides Chicago, where else is it
all
happening?
over. I have been all over. For the month of May, I was home 3 days because I was traveling to different skeptic conferences, and then oh my gosh, I have so many trips planned. It's going to be fun. I'm hoping to meet a lot of people out there. So yeah, this is going to be great. Is this me?
All right.
Oh yeah, you get the one from Avi. $5 from I get these weird ones. Okay, $5 from Mr. Boriku 10. Oh, it says pronounced Borikwa. Okay, so $5 from Mr. Borikwa. Roll the R a teensy bit. Now the message. There's a virus making people forget about the 80s rock bands. No one knows the cure. Oh, that's really bad. Roll my R's. Okay.
So, Mr. Borikia, I am down with the sickness, so thank you.
Down with the sickness. I know that reference too.
Oh, and if we're going to continue going that, Foo Fighters in reference to UFOs.
Oh, that's right. It's all connected. This is yours.
Yes, $5 from Joshua Everett. Did you hear about the Jack Black and Jack White Jackson Brownie tribute album? It's called Black and White Jackson Brownie.
It's Brown. Like Sylvia Brown, the psychic.
Oh, Jackson Brown. Okay.
Jackson, getting it, Jackson Brown. See, get it? Did you get it?
Thank you. That did help with the pun, so I appreciate the fix. And
okay, $10 from Stephanie Helms. In case you have not heard Little Richard's version, this joy to the world is the best ever. And there's a link. Joy to the world, yeah.
Stephanie Helms is our call screener tonight.
Oh, okay. Thank you for being such a good call screener, Stephanie. Where's all my psychic calls? They knew not to call in.
I think there was one troll caller that said that they were the real psychic, but they were dropped, I think, probably because at least I saw them in the list of people that were dropped and to be banned. So in many ways, it's what needs to happen.
I wanted to talk psychics. Oh my gosh, I have so many psychic stories. I could tell psychic stories all night long. Just the most wild things that goes on in the psychic world. And yeah, I'm traveling all over the United States this year and trying to put these skeptic camps together. So if people are interested, come out to, I'm going to be in St. Louis. Oh no, I was just in St. Louis. I'm going to be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in Chicago, in West Virginia, probably Washington, D.C. For a skeptic camp, one in Buffalo, New York. Skeptical in California is coming up in a few weeks, I think in August. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Follow me on Facebook or wherever and come on out. Come out and hang out is what I say. And then we can have more discussions about aliens and stuff. Or psychics.
And we got to find those, and we have to find those psychic aliens.
The psychic aliens. Well, it's becoming a blend, you know. They're really getting into this. They really believe in remote viewing. And it's fascinating because they think that because the government did testing in remote viewing back in the 1970s, something like that, that they believe that because money was spent on it, it must be real. And it's like, no, they're not funding it anymore. And the amount of money spent on the funding for remote viewing was like, to the government would be like the change you find in your couch. It wasn't that much money. And they ended it because they didn't find anything. They kind of think did it mostly because the Russians were doing it. So remote viewing is very similar to, I think of it as remote viewing is the guy version, is the male version of psychics, because they don't want to believe in psychics and talking to the dead stuff, but it's the same thing. It's just,
Yeah.
they don't want to go with the women stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm really caught up in this idea.
There is a weird gender thing that needs to be explored, while we also try to make the psychics feel a little less comfortable scamming people. So if any psychics are listening, remember, people like Susan are out there, they're listening, and you might get busted up if you're not careful. So
yeah, come at me. I'm happy with it.
ooh, we have another
Ooh.
chat that popped in. You want to read this one?
Yeah. $5 from Space Barbarian. Have you found anyone who's both a flat and hollow earther? Wow, that's a really good question. It's amazing the hollow earth is such a big deal. I mean, they're people, I find interesting, Space Barbarian, is that you get people who go to these conferences for, I don't know, flat earth or whatever. And there are people right next to you in the booth right next to you that they believe like in a hollow earth, and then you believe in the flat earth, and then others are like there's a dome over the planet, like a snow globe, and then the others are thinking there's like a firmament of water out there, and then others are like, oh no, it's like the Truman Show, and it's just none of this could be consistent with what the person next to you is saying, yet they don't argue with each other. They just go, oh, that's very interesting. And they try to fit all these odd things into their little worldview and not disagree, because they're in this, they're in a dome, they're in this bubble where they're all like, have these fringe theories. And so they don't want to mess with each other's beliefs. It's fascinating. Yeah, how they can get along. But yet, if a skeptic comes in and says, can I get the date and time and location of that thing that you're seeing? Oh my gosh, what kind of human being are you? It's it's amazing. Good question, Space Barbarian. No, I have not.
All right, so I assume that is our last chat.
I've got that 1 second delay. People in the chat have been noticing, and I appreciate you guys putting up with it, because it is weird. Because I'm right here looking at myself, and I see myself talking, and I can hear my mouth going off sync. It's weird.
I blame the internet. California isn't exactly known for its high technology, right?
Oh, I know, especially so close to Silicon Valley. I can't even imagine. I have no idea why I'm having this delay. It's very strange. I'm not even using Wi-Fi or anything. And it's a newish computer and a newish mic, and I don't usually have this problem, but for some reason I'm having a problem tonight. Sorry, everybody.
It's because they don't want you to get the word out.
Yeah, that must be it. Those space aliens they're after me. Yeah, I'm really surprised nobody from the UFO community called in and got after me. Oh, well, maybe another time.
Well, if we can convince the audience to, we have one more pop in just at the last minute, another $5 from Moira Bannister. Woohoo! Woohoo indeed. Woohoo indeed. That was definitely worth the $5. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Woohoo to you too.
Well, Susan, it sounds like you had fun. In that case, I hope you'll be interested in possibly hanging out with folks here on the line again.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought we were going to get a lot of contrary and arguments and stuff, but everybody was so polite and respectful. It was very nice having great conversations with people. And I took little notes over here, and so I can look at that up and go back and look in those things that people were talking about. But yeah, that was fascinating. I'm surprised how many people are really interested in space aliens. I would think psychics would be way more interesting, but no. The thing I'm much more an expertise on, or Wikipedia questions. Where were my Wikipedia questions? Oh my gosh, you guys. Email me or send me a private message or whatever. I'll be happy to look into whatever your Wikipedia questions are. Oh, the psychics are interfering with the signal, Darren said. Hey, I'm in sync? I'm in sync? No, I'm not in sync. No. Yeah.
As far as I can tell, you're not in sync. You're in a room.
Ah ha ha ha. Or In Sync is the music group. That's a boy band, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that was very much the big thing when I was in high school. So, yeah, I remember that for better or for worse.
Oh, I love that cartoon. That's my favorite, for better or for worse.
That one doesn't ring a bell for me.
How could it's like it's older than you and it's still out there. She's already run it twice now, for better or for worse. All you for better or for worse fans out there, let me know. That and Luann. Luann and for better or for worse. Really good cartoon. It's the ones where they age and they actually age a little bit. So I'm a big newspaper cartoon fan.
Newspaper comic. Okay. For better or for worse, I think that sounds familiar now. I thought when you said cartoon, I thought you meant like on television with commercials and animation.
No. In the newspaper.
Okay.
I still like my newspapers.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're probably not going to sell any newspapers today. I think that's wrapping it up for tonight. But remember, everyone in the audience, The Line is one of many shows here. SkepTalk's many shows here on The Line. Let's get that straight. So, we'll be here for SkepTalk again on Monday with Forrest. Susan, again, thank you for joining in. We got so many awesome patrons here floating by. Our screeners, our crew, the reason the show actually works. Thank you so much.